Today we're talking about what are good strength standards for everyday athletes. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit on my beloved coffee with my classic British builder's tea here. Cheers, but I've already had 2 coffees today, so I can't really justify a third. Can I? Anyway, check this out. Just landed through the door a few minutes ago. Issue 17 of the Fit Over 30 magazine, the Strength and Power issue. Kind of love this cover, actually. The triple jumper or long jumper. It's pretty cool, no matter what. I love the flippy round thing. So I'll be reviewing that later this week. Anyway, today's topic, general strength standards, or what are general strength standards for the everyday athlete. This is kind of like topical because I was talking about this with Nick Gill from the New Zealand All Blacks on the weekend with the podcast. And he says he doesn't do them. He doesn't have 1RM maxes or standards at the highest level. It was kind of interesting. I need to listen to the podcast to find out more, but it got me thinking, what are some basic general strength standards for the everyday athlete? Because you need some basic strength to attain to, not elite strength, but just some basic strength standards. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, as everyday athletes, we train for strength to improve our quality of health, improve athletic performance, and help us reduce the risk of injury. And there's a big difference between real-world strong and gym strong, as I like to call it, because to get real-world strong, you've got to spend a lot of time under tension, a lot of time under the bar, under the dumbbells to get you stronger. There's no shortcuts in real-world strength training. You've got to put the time and effort in. Now here's the thing, when I first started out as a personal trainer and coach, I used to engage in those what's your best bench press, what's your best deadlift type conversations. We all do it. However, over the years, I came to ask that question less and less. In fact, I didn't really care less how much you deadlift or how much you bench press because it didn't really carry over to the real world. Just in trying to improve the sake of your 1 rep maxes just for 1 rep max sake doesn't mean you're going to be a better everyday athlete or athlete in the sports that you do or better snowboarder or runner that I like to be and like to do. Which is interesting because that's exactly what Nick Gill was saying from the All Blacks. He said there's enough strength and he gets to a point where he just doesn't care beyond that because it doesn't make the All Blacks better players on the field. There's so many other qualities they've got to improve on to get them to be the best they can be. Now, there are countless studies out there and research that have taken place to find out how much or how strong is strong enough. And they all come to the same conclusion that strength training is important for quality of life, reducing injury, and improving athletic performance. However, they can't answer that one magical question of how strong is strong enough. So strength does matter, no pun intended, but they can't quantify how much because it becomes more about sport-specific training. Now, in the media today and around everywhere on the Instagram, social media, everywhere there, strength training has been confused with being a hot, sweaty hit mess on the floor. Now, it's far more complex than that. True strength training isn't about that workout of the day or that hot, sweaty mess you get on the floor. It needs to be thought out. It needs a lot of time, effort, rest in between, and far more other complexities that go into making a real, true, and great strength program. Now, when we're talking about strength training, we need to understand 2 key terms. You have general strength principles and sport-specific training principles. Now, general strength training principles is all about the base that supports strength specific. It's the base, it's the foundation to give you the prerequisites to be strong enough to go into sport-specific training. For example, your strength standards for badminton or tennis will be far different for the NFL or international rugby. Okay, so you have to distinguish between the two. Now, most everyday athletes, general population over 30, will sit and always sit within the general strength training principles. We like to think that we're elite, however, sadly, we're not. Okay, we're over 30, we're going to the end of our career. Doesn't mean we can't be strong as hell, but you have to understand that most of the time we're going to be sitting in general strength and we need to create this foundation. Or if you're new to strength training in your 30s, 40s, 50s, we're going to create this foundation of base layer of general strength down below. Now, the issue is there are a lot of sport-specific training principles. How much you should bench press, how much you should deadlift, how many pull-ups you should do for the highest levels for the elite sport. However, for general strength standards, for the everyday person, it's very few and far between. It's hard to find them. So we ended up creating our own general strength standards for the everyday athlete, for the population over 30 to try and adhere to. Now, these aren't elite by any means. They're just base level strength standards that we think people can reach and attain to maximize the quality of their life, in theory.
I have a new addition to the Strength Matters office. How cool is that?
So I've just moved into the office to give you a little bit of a PowerPoint. Don't worry, it's not going to be death by PowerPoint, I promise you. But if you're new to Strength Matters, you need to understand a hierarchy of athletic development. It is key to understand where the general strength standards fit in and why we put them where we do, essentially. So, the Strength Matters hierarchy of athletic development is a system, it's a tool that we use to make sure that we leave nothing to chance when we come into athletic training. There are what we have called 3 layers. You have layer 1, layer 2 and layer 3, and it all makes up a pyramid with a foundation at the bottom. Let's look at the beginning. So layer 1 is all about mobility, stability, balance and coordination. It is essentially the foundation of the entire system. Then you have layer 2, which is strength and aerobic capacity, which is where we're going to be talking about most today. And then you have layer 3, which involves power, speed, agility and anaerobic capacity. As I said before, we're going to go back and focus on layer 2, the strength aspect. And in layer 2 itself, what we've done is we've divided it up into 2 separate sections, layer 2.1 and layer 2.2, to give us an idea of where you sit in the general strength scheme. So in our strength system, everybody is assessed at layer 2.1. Everybody completes these tests. However, not everybody goes to layer 2.2. So in layer 2.1, we're looking at the holy trinity of strength, basically looking at the foundations, which involve grip, abs and glutes. Those are the 3 most important things, and the fastest way to get stronger to improve the scores in these 3 areas, because I promise you anything else will become a lot easier if you do. So at a very basic level, we're looking at grip, abs and glutes. So abs and glutes, what are we looking for? So the 2 standards we're looking for there are the straight arm plank, and to be able to hold that for 2 minutes. And in terms of glutes, we're looking for a glute bridge and being able to hold that for 2 minutes too. Now, some of you may scorn, however, these are standards for general strength for the everyday person. Not everybody can complete them. Now, in terms of grip strength, this is very straightforward. I want you to hang from a bar and do so for 60 seconds. Not quite so straightforward. So those are general and basic strength standards that we want everyday people to achieve first and foremost before they can go on and achieve and do layer 2.2. Not elite by any means, however, a good starting point and place for people over 30 to begin their strength training career. So what happens after layer 2.1? Well, you can progress to layer 2.2 if you pass all the standards at layer 2.1. That is the straight arm plank for 2 minutes, the glute bridge hold for 2 minutes, and the bar hang for 60 seconds or 2. And if you can move well and have passed layer 1 movement standards, but that's for another video. So when we assess in layer 2.2, I want you to think in terms of movements, not exercises, movements. And for us, the fundamental human movements are locomotion, push, pull, hinge, squat, rotate, and anti-rotate. So our tests and our strength tests are based around each of those 7 movements. So let's start with the locomotion test. Here we have 2 tests. They are the box crawl test, where you have to crawl around an object on the floor, changing direction each lap, and see how long you can do it without putting your knees down or raising your bum up in the air. Standard for that is ideally to achieve 5 minutes in total, if not better by going to 10 minutes. You then have the 75% bodyweight farmer carry. Can you carry 75% of your body weight spread out over 2 hands for 90 seconds? It's one of the hardest and most important tests that we do because it's testing your postural stabilizers, and we want to make sure that we maintain stability under load. Then you have the pushing tests. Okay, again straightforward. Push-ups, produce 1 every 3 seconds. The goal for that for men is 25 reps, and for women it's 10 reps. You also have dips, body weight dips as well. Again, the standard for men here is ideally 10 reps and women 5 reps. Then we go on to our pull movement, We have pull-ups, chin-ups, and flexed arm hang here. We need to test all three. Pull-ups and chin-ups, because it's important for women as well to understand that a lot of women can do chin-ups, but they struggle with pull-ups. Pull-ups are a lot harder for women, so we need to test both. And we also test for the flexed arm hang, because we're looking at the health of the scapula. Okay, that's really important. That's one other secret for you to improve your pull-ups, improve your flexed arm hang first and foremost. So the standards there are for men, we have pull-ups and chin-ups, we want 6 reps each. For women, we want 3 reps each. For men, for the flexed arm hang, we want 60 seconds. And for women, ideally, we're looking for 30 seconds. So let's go on to a few of the controversial ones, the 2 controversial ones, which I'm sure will spark up a lot of debate, so feel free to comment down below if you disagree with me here. Let's start with the hinge and, more importantly, the deadlift. So, I know people are going to debate this with me, but for us, a deadlift, we have men 1.5 times body weight, 1.5 times body weight. We're looking at them to do that for 5 reps. And for women, we're looking at 1.25 times body weight for 5 reps. Also, not elite, but not easy for the beginner in terms of general strength too. So can we go heavier? Yes, but it depends on your sport-specific goal after that. But if I can get someone to those sort of levels, well, they're in good shape and a good standard to move forward after that. Now then you have the squat. Now we look at barbell back squat, but I'll come to that in a second. Our first test in the squat is single leg, single limb unilateral stuff, which we're looking at split squats. Can you do 75% of your body weight for 8 reps on one leg? Rest 60 seconds and then do so on the other leg. I'll rephrase that again. 75% of your body weight on each leg. We want to get to those standards first and foremost. If you can achieve them, then we may progress to the barbell later on. And that's why I talk about the case for the barbell and whether you should use it or not for everyday athletes. I want to get them strong first in other areas and move well so they can really perform well under the bar. So there you go, have a think about that. And then if they have skills and they understand barbell training and they can back squat, then ideally we're looking for a bodyweight back squat for 5 reps, okay? But for me, the most important stat there is the 75% bodyweight elevated split squat, the Bulgarian split squat for 8 reps, a bit of strength endurance for you. And then finally, we have rotate and anti-rotate, and that test is done by the means of a Turkish get-up. So just very simply, I'll link down below to the blog where you can read more about this and the specific weight tests and standards for this. But for men, we're looking for 5 reps each side, continuous with a 24 kilo kettlebell, which is 53 pounds, I think it is. And then you have women, we're looking at between 12 or 16 kilos, depending on how heavy you are. Again, 5 reps continuous each side. And that is testing for rotation and anti-rotation, because it's one of those movements, one of those exercises that encompasses the entire range of human movements. So there you go. Those are our standards for layer 2.2. So there you have it. You have layer 2.1, where people have to pass first before they proceed to layer 2.2. Then you have the tests in layer 2.2. What do you think? Now, they're general strength standards. They're not elite. So people think, yeah, I can do one of those tests easily. Well, can you do all of them easily? Because if you can't do them all, you won't be progressing in our system to layer 3, which is the sport-specific strength training that I was kind of talking about at the start. So we're going to get everyone to a good level of strength, an overall level of strength. They can hit all of these targets before we even go anywhere near sport-specific. Now, less than 5% of people will achieve layer 3 from what we've seen so far. It is that hard. It's much harder than you think. So just bear that in mind. Can you hit those standards? What do you think about those standards? Leave a comment down below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and your feelings towards it. Are some of them too hard? Are some of them too easy? Just give me your comments down below, because I know it's open to debate. This is just what we think and we feel the best standards to help everyday people over 30, and there's more to this, and they will always looking to improve these standards and add or subtract certain exercises as well. But the layer 2.1 into 2.2 gives us a good base layer of where we're starting and where the everyday athlete is in their training journey. Very similar to what Nick Gill was saying on the podcast about the All Blacks being at the highest level of their sport. Once people can hit these strength numbers and also our cardio numbers too, I don't really care much about what their 1 rep max is or their 5 rep max is after these standards, unless it gets very sport specific, because strength above and beyond these sorts of stats doesn't make you a better human being. It just makes you sport specific and training towards a certain goal or field. Like as Nick was saying, like the best athletes, the best players on the rugby field, yes, they're strong and quick, but it doesn't mean they have the best one rep max like a powerlifter or something like that. It's because it doesn't carry over to the qualities they need on the field. And that's how we feel too for everyday athletes. We need overall qualities of strength to give them the best possible chance to be the best they can to succeed in other areas, because what makes you a better human being is, well, a lot more than strength and fitness, to be honest with you. It's the characteristics, the mindset, it's everything else in between. So there you have it. Those are our standards. This is why we don't really talk about the elite that much. We focus on general strength standards and get people to these sort of levels first and foremost. And it's okay to be here for quite some time, because if you're new to strength training, particularly in your late 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s, it's gonna take you a while. Now, if you want to learn more about the Strength Matters system, there's a link down below where you can get a free book and also a free video training course to understand more about the system and how you apply it. We go much more in depth in everything, basically, so you understand the system inside and out. Now, also, if you want to understand our assessment system, there's also a link down below for that. You can buy it for a couple of bucks. To give you an idea of what the layer 1 all the way through to layer 3.1 assessments are. Everything is detailed, all the standards are out there. It's quite straightforward and it gives you another bigger insight into the Strength Matter system. And it's just a couple of bucks, another one of those fancy Starbucks coffees or something. So there you have it. That is kind of our general strength standards. What are good strength standards for the everyday athlete, the average man or woman out there? What do you think? Please leave a comment down below. I'm open to debate, question with this. I want to improve this system and get it better, and I want to involve you too as well. So please leave a comment down below. Let me know as well what other things you want to hear from us in the future. So subscribe, leave a comment down below, press that bell notification, and download that free booklet, the free training series. And if you want to learn more about the assessments, get those assessments too. Anyway, ciao for now, as they say in Llandau, and I'll see you on the next video.